What's up, guys? Ace here, bringing you guys a Warrior Force Season 2, Episode 8, Smoldering Malevolence preview discussion. If you guys haven't seen the last episode, make sure you guys check it out. It was pretty interesting. I liked it. It's very comical. Very much a good lead up to the oncoming episode. I'll give you a recap, obviously, but if you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out for yourself. Essentially, we got back from the trip, the boat, and we met Takara's family, and we ended up going northwest in the Chinese peninsula, and we went to the oasis. After going through the wasteland, we saw a bunch of creatures, such as an onyx and a sand shrew. And so, those are kind of interesting things we saw. We also saw a crow that I didn't mention, and they were sentient for the most part, besides the actual earthworm that we saw, which is the onyx, and a few of the birds. Now, I'm guessing there are a few of the earthworms that are sentient. I think that's kind of interesting to talk about, but I guess we can talk about that in a later episode. Other than that, we are here in the oasis, and we are near the Amaterasu-like structure, which may or may not contain an Adola burst. And that's pretty interesting, because this may or may not be the first time we see something that isn't human and have an Adola burst. Now, in the last episode, I suggested that, hey, perhaps this mole we found has an Adola burst, because not only is it a mole, it has a freaking fire for its tail. I thought that was interesting. Like, why does a mole have a fire for a tail? Like, that's definitely some sort of like Pokemon type design there, because like, think about it. Like, imagine like having gas for a tail. Like, that's essentially what's happening. That like a constant stream of gas. Like, what if it rains? Like, not that you would be put in an environment that it rains. Like, does this tail go out? Like, how does that work? Anyways, I'm thinking that this mole in particular, and this has something to lead up to what I'm going to say, but I think that this mole is part of an Adola burst. Like, the tail has got to be part of an Adola burst. And maybe it's not the case, but I'm thinking that because of probably when it was born and where it's born. It's born in the wasteland near the oasis. You know, the oasis is near the cataclysm that 250 years ago, which is definitely prime position to have an Adola burst, because that's the start of everything, the calamity. And so if that's the case, and you live in this area, the odds are your parents might have had an Adola burst, or part of the flame, the original flame, or something like that, and thus you might have it because it makes something passed down. It doesn't have to necessarily be passed down, because then again, like, Shinra is third generation, and his parents probably didn't have anything to do with this, right? So it's not necessarily passed down, and that could be the case. But seeing how like it has a flame as a tail, and like it's like a generic animal, I'm thinking it might be a part of an Adola burst, the Adola burst that we might see here. And that might say something, because like it's an animal, and we saw that the claim from the mole that basically the oasis was taken over by other animals, perhaps. And now this could be a little, I don't know, semantic thing here, like animals, just like people or things that are just like very aggressive, taking over your stuff. It could be animals in that way, not necessarily the way that people think of animals, in that like they're just creatures that aren't humans, right? And so if that's the case, I'm thinking that perhaps one of these hellhounds, I guess the boss of the hellhound, might end up having, I guess, an Adola burst, and like everyone is sort of connected in this area, this wasteland area, by the Adola burst. Now I don't know what it says about the next episode though. Like, what does that look like? Like, is there like an open flame in the center of the field? I guess they call this area, I haven't said it before, but they call this area that is like the Amaterasu, the tabernacle. And I'm wondering if this tabernacle is just like an open flame in the center of the floor or something. I don't know what this looks like, because it's kind of weird to sort of group everything up together like that, because we haven't seen this before. So I don't know what to say about that. However, when they said animals, it might be just like, it might have been infiltrated. Like, it could be like a Trojan horse thing, where first they sent hellhounds. And when I say they sent hellhounds, I'm talking about the Whiteclads. Because at first, looking at this episode, I'm like, okay, we're going to this island, very remote island. Not island, remote island, I guess. A very remote place. It's in the middle of the wasteland. And the only people we know that are really connected, like super closely connected to the Adola burst, are the Whiteclads, right? They want it. Well, I get the Whiteclad and the Evangelists. They want to collect everyone through the Dual Burst. They collected Inca. They're collecting other people. They collect Shinra's brother. They're definitely looking for more people with the Dual Bursts. And is it really possible that like there's an Adola burst that the Whiteclads don't know about? Like it seems like the Evangelist is pretty keen on his stuff. Like if he sends us something or he has any intel about an Adola burst, like I feel like he'd be the first one to know. Like is it really the case that the fire, I want to say department, but the fire force, the fire company, the overall all the fire force companies together, is it really the case that they in fact know more than the Evangelists? One of the Evangelist's key purpose is to find out these Adola bursts. The fire force has other things to do. So like I understand them. I expect them sort of to not know where every, I guess, Adola burst would be. While the Evangelists, I would sort of assume that they would know where the Adola burst should be, because that's what they're looking for. That's their only plan, right, at the moment. So it could be like infiltrated by these hellhounds, but then in the end, these hellhounds actually opened up the way. I don't know why the hellhounds would need to be there, but these hellhounds could open the way. And this is in context of if they don't mean animals in the traditional sense, or bandits in a traditional sense. So like these hellhounds could open a way for the Whiteclads to come in and essentially just, I guess, have their base of operation here. And this could be the case, but I think we have a few more episodes to go before we actually really need to get into the nitty and gritty parts of this actual season. So that's understandable if it's not the case. But I'm sort of leaning that it's just like a boss. However, seeing the preview discussion, if you guys haven't seen the preview discussion, or not seeing the preview, if you guys haven't seen the preview, make sure you see it. It said Smoldering Malevolence. They came from a place beyond the spatial rift. I have no clue what that means. But, what does it mean when they say they? I don't know. They came from a space beyond the spatial rift. Is he talking about the Evangelists? Or is it talking about the Hellhounds? Or like, what is it talking about? What are they talking about when they say there? The narrator. That's kind of interesting, because right now I'm getting like this whole Naruto. What's that girl name? That the girl who's I guess mother. They refer to her as who birthed the Sage of Six Paths and birthed the Sage of Six Paths. Like she came from a place beyond Earth. She's actually extraterrestrial. So I'm getting like Naruto mother. Is it Kyuga? I think it's Kyuga. I'm getting that sort of vibe from here, where like basically they're coming from a different world to restart something, and like, which is understandable, right? Because I mean, I don't know, like, is this a whole alien thing? Like an alien trying to recreate civilization after they've seen it like be pretty bad? I don't know. This is pretty hard to know. There's I feel like it's super strong ties there, but that's just only because I know Naruto, right? Like this sort of trope could be done somewhere else, but I don't know. Tell me what you think about that. Like, what do they mean by they came from a place beyond the spatial rift? Is that like the Hellhounds? Like, why would you talk about the Hellhounds like that? Like, they're just animals, right? So they has to be talking about like something more than just the Hellhounds. And I'm thinking we're gonna get more into that next episode, obviously. But I definitely think it's gonna be a sentient. It's got to be like sentient humans, right? Or at least like ghost-like structures or infernals. Maybe it's infernals, and like maybe their whole interpretation of infernals is sort of diluted, and that infernals aren't actually humans. They're just people from beyond the spatial rift, who just sort of inhabited these human bodies that are just on fire at the moment. And like the only way for them to inhabit these humans are when they're on fire. But maybe that's like thinking too deep into it. Like I wouldn't know what else to think about when they say that, looking back at the preview. However, we do see something like we also see one thing too. Like when we see the preview, we also see in the eyes of the mole, we saw that he had a flame in his eyes. And that was kind of telling that it was an Adola burst he saw there, because we usually see that sort of special flame flicker when we see when they want to represent an Adola burst. And so I don't know what that's supposed to mean though. Like, is he ignited? Is that mole, a particular mole, ignited because of Adola burst? Like usually moles don't have that. Or is that just part of the mole's like physique, like the actual part of the mole's body. I don't know. It's super weird. It's super weird. I don't know what's to happen next, but that's kind of interesting to see that. Yeah, there's a lot like small things to touch at in this episode, especially with like the many of infernals that are in the desert at night. That was super creepy too. Like, does that have anything to do with the tabernacle? Like, does the tabernacle, I guess, host all of these people, essentially? These infernals? I don't know. That's super weird. Also, it was also super weird that Shinra had this little, like, not thought, but like consciences in his head telling him to protect the forest, as if it was a good person trying to tell him, like, protect the forest. Like, it definitely wasn't sinister at all. And that was kind of weird because, like, you're in the middle of wasteland, there's a bunch of infernals, a bunch of creepy stuff happening. Not really creepy, but like crazy stuff, like naturally crazy stuff. And so it's like, ooh, I don't know. There's a lot going on, boys. There's a lot going on. But anyways, tell me what you guys think in the comments section down below. If you guys like this episode, make sure you guys go like and comment. And maybe even subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Other than that, peace out, guys, and I'll see you next week.